Okay, here we go. So, good afternoon. Of course, your teacher asked me to come in and speak a little bit about my career, where I've been, what I've done, and also to talk a little bit about what we look for when we hire people. So, a little bit about me. I'm an Army veteran, counterintelligence agent in Europe when I was in the Army. So, that's one career field you may end up in someday. And then when I finished up the military service, I went to college. Any Buckeye fans football? You a Buckeye fan football, guys? Come on now. Huh? All right, yeah, good. So I've got a friendly class in here. Went to Ohio State, and I hired on as a conductor in the railroad industry. I was looking for a job, and it was really came down to what I was maybe going to go back into government or do something else, and I hired on as a conductor. Anyone familiar with the railroad industry? What do you know about it?
Not a whole lot. I mean, not much actually.
Okay.
I guess.
So the railroad industry is first of all, it's a national security asset because it moves stuff for the country. It's obviously important to the economy. And what we do is we move freight, everything from automobiles to coal to ammunition to fruit. I mean, it's the whole gamut of stuff. So I hired in Columbus, Ohio as a conductor. And when I decided I enjoyed what I did, that was my first job after college. I've had a lot of jobs, and I'll talk a little more about that, but after college, that's what I did. And then I became a manager, and then I became a assistant vice president, a general manager, and right now I'm a general manager of the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad. Anyone heard of that? It's a big railroad that runs around Chicago. I have currently about 800 people that work up through me, and we basically move the freight between the western and the eastern railroads. So it's a pretty exciting job. I do a lot of everything. You know, my job is commercial, making contracts with customers. It's managing people, making sure we handle issues if they don't do what they're supposed to do. We handle a budget. We handle safety, we handle service to customers. So my job is pretty much anything you could think of when it comes to a company. And you know, I've done this for 21 years. So done a lot of different things within that 21, but a lot of it has been in a leadership role within the railroad industry. So I guess the main thing here is, what would you do if you were going to hire? What do I look for? All right, first of all, moral and ethical people. Anyone know what moral and ethical is? I'm interactive.
Come on, guys.
I'm interactive here, so.
This is quite fast, but you guys can talk about it.
Moral ethical.
What's moral and ethical?
Classic code. People like follow the rules and
Don't steal, right? Don't take stuff they shouldn't. Don't fight with each other, right? That's kind of a fundamental thing when you get your first job. And you might think that's funny about being, you know, moral and ethical. I can't tell you through the years how many issues I've had with people that would try to steal, try to do things that they shouldn't, not listen to what their bosses told them to do, right? And that's one of the basic things, if you're going to work out in this world, that you have to learn, is to, you know, moral and ethical behavior. Then outside that, what do you think another thing is? Anyone have an idea of what we would look for? Go ahead.
Experience.
That's one, yeah. But you know what? I don't need experience as much as I need someone that wants to show up for work. You know, all of a sudden you got your first job and you're scheduled to go to work and it's Friday, and oh, by the way, your favorite friend's having a party. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
You're going to still have to go to work.
You're still going to have to go to work. Because that's an expectation. You've told that employer that I want to work for you, and as a result, it's a relationship. It's a social, what I would call a social contract. You're being compensated. You're being paid for doing something, and the expectation is that you provide your time, right? If you're not showing up for work, you're not doing what you agreed you would do when you accepted that job. So we got three things now: moral, ethical, and to show up for work. What else? What else you think? Nayla?
Dress. What do you
Yeah, be professional, right? If you wear a shirt in there that says, you know, I hate the world and the world hates me or something, would that maybe be appropriate to wear to your job? And there's many worse shirts, right? So you came in and you were going to meet me, and I was hiring people. I come in to shake your hand, introduce myself. How you doing, Mr. Wright? Is that a good way to get hired? Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
No.
Say no. Good answer. So, you know, how you present yourself in life, and remember this, when, you know, someday you'll be in high school, someday you'll be in you know, your first job, whether you go into Army or whether you go in and go into a craft or you go into college. When you go out and interview for that first job, how you present yourself. Hey, how are you doing, Mr. Wright? Good to meet you. Go ahead, have a seat. Okay. And you sit up. I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed. Funny, huh? It is. Because it's not the way that you want to present yourself as a professional. When you go work for someone, yeah, you're not going to be perfect. You're young, and you've got a lot to learn, but showing little things that you understand, that social relationship of showing up on time, not stealing, not disobeying what you've been asked to do. You know, hey, need you to, you know, take the trash out. Well, I don't want to take the trash out, and you just leave. You know, all those things are very basic things that we look for when we hire people. So, and again, I've managed thousands of people at a time, and I can tell you, there are adults out there that don't understand that. And, you know, if anything, any employer that hires, and I hire lots of people, I do a lot of interviewing, and I can tell you for a fact, those are basic fundamental things that we look for. You know, that those are the door opens when you do some things like that. You may know nothing. You said experience, didn't you?
Yeah.
If I have a person that has the most experience in the world but doesn't know how to show up for work on time, doesn't know how to not disobey what, you know, taking out the trash, and disregards what he or she's been asked to do, and is just generally disrespectful, but is the most experienced person, and I have someone that knows nothing, which one would I choose?
The one that goes to work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you can teach skills. When you come out here, you're not gonna. When I hired on the railroad, I didn't know how to do what I do now. I didn't know how to manage a budget. I didn't know how to, you know, switch cars. I didn't know how to follow the rules and everything. I had to learn all that. But what I did have was an understanding that I had to do those things I just talked about. Is that kind of answering some of your questions? So what do you all think? What's on your minds? Anything about me or?
So could you tell them a little bit about your service experience? So
In
like,
the Army or?
Yeah. So when you got out of high school, what did you choose to do, and can you talk about what you needed to do in order to do the next step?
Yeah, I can. I when I graduated from high school, I went to college for a couple years and I ran out of money. That's what happened. I couldn't pay for college. When I went to college, there was no such thing as college loans and all that. They were different. And I decided that I wanted to start a career, so I enlisted in the Army. I went down to the recruiter and said, I'll do it. And I took the tests, passed the physicals, and joined the U.S. Army. And it was a wonderful career. I mean, I again, was a counterintelligence guy, so I got to go around the world. I got to do a lot of neat stuff. Invaluable experience, helped me deal with people. And then when I finished those 4 years, the Army or any military branch helps you get college tuition money. And then I took that money that I had earned and finished and went back to college and went through school. And then when I finished that up, and I'll tell you one thing, never think you're too good for a job. Because I had a college degree and I had a lot of Army experience, and I had maybe an opportunity to go back into government, and I had an opportunity to do a job that didn't require a college degree, which was be a conductor. And as we were weighing that out financially, money-wise, this was a better opportunity. And in addition, it was a better opportunity for progression. So I actually took a job that did not use, and didn't require education, didn't require you to have any specialized training, with a view that I'm no better than anyone else, and if I go in there and I do a good job, then it should help me progress and do more, and it did. Through the years, Malin, my daughter, will tell you we moved 16 times through the years, different jobs, different places. Running all the locomotives for CSX. At one time I was responsible for that, running major divisions, and that was, again, because I was willing to start at the bottom and prove myself. So when you take a job out there, prove yourself. Anything else? Yeah.
Does counterintelligence mean that you were a spy?
I did some stuff like that, yeah. We did what was called investigations on people that tried to commit espionage. So we would go out and find out if there was someone trying to take our secrets in the government, yes. So I did a lot of investigative work.
And they train you for all of that when you're in the Army,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah, I spent 4 years in the Army, and 4 months of that I was located in Arizona going through intelligence school. And one more thing that I would say about that, why did I have that opportunity? Because when I wanted to do it, and it was a special program to get in, I did not get myself in trouble. I didn't use drugs. I didn't go out there and have criminal records, police interaction to where they had, I had done some stuff wrong. I didn't do any of that. So, because I obviously had to have what they call a security clearance, and when you do that, they look and say, well, what type of person are you? Are you a person that, has been in trouble with the police a lot? Are you a person that's used drugs? Are you a person that generally is what they would call a risk to give secret information to? And because I didn't have any record, I was able to get the clearance. So when you're out there someday and you're making those decisions, you can limit yourself if you choose to not follow the rules and the laws. What else? Yeah.
What did they teach you at what was the main things they taught you at when you went to the Army?
When I went to the Army, I went to basic training, so I ran around and played in the mud for 2 months and played soldier and ruck marches and lots of picture of me. I'm a lean, mean machine, because I was in good shape. But and after that, then I went through what they call specialized training, and they teach you how to do what you're going to do for your career. And again, I didn't have an education. There were people that were officers that went in after college, and they need people that are educated. What I was able to do was take that experience and then get my education when I left. So, I kind of reverse. One thing you're going to have to do is you'll have to set your own path in life. There are some of you that may not go right to college or may never go to college. You may go to a trade school. You may go to the military. But again, it all goes back to people that are moral and ethical, show up for work, do a good job, are respectful, are generally going to come out okay. There's not a peg that fits. One person's a square peg, one person's a round peg, one person's the triangle. Everyone has their place in this world. But again, starting with the basic fundamentals. Yeah.
What did you go to college for?
I went for political science and did business work. I went to Ohio State. I've been sent to Northwestern. I actually did time in Harvard in the executive program up there one time. And all that came through my employer because with doing a good job for them, they helped me progress and continue to learn. You know, that's another thing. Don't ever think that when you go to college and, oh, I got my diploma, that you're done. In today's world, you have to learn constantly. You always got to brush up your skills to remain competitive. And that might be, you know, going to a bunch of different executive training. We call them executive, which is just like a 2-month course, you know, kind of like going a place for 2 months. But my college degree is in political science.
What other thing, political science, can you explain to them what kinds of things you could do with that degree?
Government, it's really driven. I went to political science because I thought I was going to go back into what I did before. Teaches you, but it's a great thing to go if you want to go to law school. A lot of people go for political science because it gives you the fundamentals of maybe what you're going to do as a lawyer. It allows you to go into government work. You can use that to go to graduate school and be a teacher or a professor. You know, but some of you will be engineers, go to engineering school. Some of you will be computer scientists. You know, but political science for me, I went specifically for a reason, which was international relations, which means how the governments interact, how we talk to Germany, how we talk to, you know, China and those places. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so what was your job in the government?
I was going to go into government. I was interviewing after the Army, and I decided to go to the railroad.
Okay, but what did you want to be? Like what?
Intelligence, again, stay in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the worst interview you've ever had with someone?
So I just interviewed a guy about 3 weeks ago, and he comes in, and we want to hire him to be a person to work on a conductor. We wanted to he was being interviewed for a conductor, which is out switching railroad cars, taking the train from point A to point B. Okay, so, you know, like what I did when I first hired. He came in, he was unshaven, he had ripped clothes, he didn't smell the best, and he sat down, and we asked him about the railroad industry. What do you think? You know, what do you think about the railroad industry? And he said, well, you know, the railroad industry. None of us are ever happy. We you know, it's just, you know, we're all grumpy. Is that a good answer?
When you're interviewing for a position at the railroad?
And we sat there. There was a panel of us, 3 people to interview, and of course you have to finish interviewing the person, so you finish asking the questions, but our minds were already shut down as far as we're not hiring this guy. We'll just, you know, we're just finishing the interview questions because you have to. But yeah, he sunk his ship.
You guys think it's funny, but you think about some students in your classes and how they act, and think about the fact that they are potentially trying to get a job within the next couple of years. And if they can't obey or respect the teachers and the environment at school, how are they going to perform in any job? You know, I mean, these are basic. If you think about the things that Mr. Wright was saying, none of it was really about experience. It's about your character. And some people already at your age have a reputation. I mean, do you check references?
Oh yeah, sometimes, depending on what we're hiring and how it works. We always do a background check. So if we hire someone to be a conductor or a manager, our police department, we have our own police department, they run a background check to make sure that person has not been committed a felony, you know, had serious issues, because we're not going to hire someone, you know, that has a lot of problems. You know, mistakes happen, but what we're looking for is a person that is just a constant issue. We don't want to hire that person, because if they're an issue outside of wherever, they're going to be an issue if we would hire them. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So to get hired in as a conductor,
Mm-hmm.
You said you don't need experience. You need to have a high school diploma?
Yes.
Okay. And so what other things are you looking for, and how much would a position like that pay? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, so, you know, obviously to be a railroad conductor, you have to have graduated from high school.
And do your grades matter?
No, the graduation matters,
Okay.
the fact that you graduated. In this
Okay.
case, what we're looking for is all that I talked about and the right attitude. Attitude is really a lot of that. And you will probably start 60, 70,000 a year as a conductor.
Wow.
It's a very good job, and it also has benefits that are very good. We get a lot of people that come work for us because of the benefits and the salary. Now, what happens is you have some people that come in, they want that, but they don't want to follow up with the contract I talked about. We're paying good money, we're paying good benefits, we expect that person work, and they end up not keeping the job because they don't want to work a weekend, they don't want to work a night, because it's a 24-hour thing. You can be asked to work at, now you have time off, it's not like you're straight through, but hey, this week you may be on all night shift, this week you may be working the weekend, and again, but part of that is very good compensation, and some people want that, but they don't want the restrictions on their personal life. But once you're hired and we say, hey, this is the right person, we just hired a group. And one of the things we look at is we're working on really being inclusive. We hired two female conductors, so gender's not an issue. You can be man, woman, or anything in between. As far as we just want good people, and that's the key. And I sat up and talked to the new hire class yesterday, and I had two women, 3 men, and very good attitudes, very excited, and all of them came from different backgrounds. There was one individual that had been in the military, 2 had been in the military, one person had been working at a trucking company, another person was just a young man out of high school, he had just starting life. And so, there's no, again, one size you have to be to get jobs, but again, they're all of the same, happy to be there, showing up, respectful, and listening to what we train them with. And they didn't know anything about the railroad, nothing. And we're teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. And then what is that? Okay, so I mean, I really don't know. So how many hours would they work a week?
Well, it depends if they, what job they're in, and it depends on if they work overtime.
Okay.
There's federal laws that you can only work so many hours. So there's a lot of them who put 50, 60 hours in because they want the overtime, and they have that opportunity to earn overtime, which means, anyone know what overtime is? What is it?
What, like the 8 hours a day or whatever the standard time is?
Yeah, but if you were working, overtime to you would mean that you're making more money than you normally make.
Yeah.
Right, and everyone likes that, right?
For sure. Mm-hmm. And so what would if they were on a shift as a conductor, for example, what would be their job? What would be some things, like you were saying?
Depending on what railroad company they work for, when I worked for a large railroad before I came up to Chicago, they would work, a lot of them might work from Baltimore, Maryland, where I lived, and they would take a train to, say, Cumberland, Maryland, or to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then they'd spend the night in the hotel, and then they'd bring a train back the next day. So they were what was called over-the-road conductors and engineers. And then here, it's a local operation, so all the people are switching customers and switching cars here locally to go to the big railroads, and they work 8 to 12 hours depending on what the job calls for, and then they go home and stay, go to their house, come back out the next day.
And then they're responsible for driving the train?
The engineer is responsible for driving the train, which is the next step.
Okay.
If you become a conductor, you have the ability to become an engineer. The conductor is the person that goes out and actually pulls the levers that make the cars uncouple, goes out and makes sure that they, move the car into the industry, the business that wants it. So if I'm a business that wants corn syrup, they would be the one to go back there and tell the engineer to bring the car back so they can put the car in that place so the customer can hook a tube to it to take the product out of it. And then the engineer is the one that actually drives the locomotive.
Okay, and so, but do the engineers usually start out as conductors?
Most of them, yes. Yeah, very rarely. In fact, I don't know of anyone anymore that goes right into an engineer position. And they're compensated, substantially more than a conductor because it's an incentive to take on that role of moving the locomotive.
And do you need to have education, college for that, or it's all trained within?
It's all trained from within. Where college has a piece in the railroad industry is that, to be the comptroller that works for me, does the finances, says, hey, how much money did we make? Or the lawyer that represents us in with legal issues, or the HR, human resource person that handles that. Those are college requirements. But when it gets into the working on the trains or fixing the cars or fixing the track, that's a job, coming out and being a track person that repairs the track. Out of the 750 that work in the company that I'm the general manager for, 50 of us, 50 and a couple are managers. Everyone else is out doing the work. So there's a vast majority we need more of the people doing the work and less on the oversight. So, and none of them, now there are some that, I had a person that I knew that was a conductor who had a law degree. He just wanted to earn the money.
Right.
So and he had no shame. In his view, this was a wonderful job. He loved it, and many people that work in the railroad industry, are. And that's another thing I would tell you is, don't judge the book by the cover. There are people that maybe aren't a manager that are smarter than the manager. Don't judge your books by your cover. There's a lot behind a person, and when you get to know them, you'll be amazed. Yeah.
Is the general manager the highest you can go?
I report, in this railroad it is, I report to a board of directors. We're owned by parent companies, and then so they have members that are a board, and I report to the board. When I worked for the other railroad, the big railroad, no, I wasn't the highest. The chief executive officer and the chief operating officer were, the senior leaders, what I call them, of the company. It depends on how big it is. But for this one, I report to a board. Anyone know what a board of directors is? There's a question for you for today. Yeah. What did?
Don't they report to the government because the railroad is government?
Well, we have government regulations, yeah. The board of directors is a group of people that are chosen by, anyone here of stock? Everyone know what stock is?
Yeah.
What's stock? What's stock?
I know people buy into stocks.
Okay, that's right.
Are they companies?
So if I buy a piece of stock I'm going to use something for General Motors, what does that entitle me to? I got time for this, don't I?
Yep.
I don't know,
That's a way of owning a piece of the company.
We're going to be talking and learning about this. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. This is something that I would like to do.
Okay.
Is there's an online game
Mhm.
that's real life
Stock. Yeah.
broking or whatever, trading. So this is great because it feeds right into that.
So if I give you give me $25, I'm GM, I'm General Motors, not a person, it's a company, right? Okay, so you give that company $25, they give you a share of stock. You now are a very small owner of stock, but you have a piece of ownership of that company. And as a result of that, you get a couple things. You want your stock price, you want it to be worth $35, right? Don't you? Or do you want it to be worth 15?
No.
You want to go up. And you also want something called a dividend. And a dividend says that, hey, I own $25 and every quarter, by the way, you did so good, you're going to pay me 10 cents every quarter just for the fact that you own that $25 piece of stock. That's called a dividend. So that's a repetitive way of earning money. right? And then if you sell it, you want to sell it when it's gone up. So all those things are way people invest in companies and own part of a company. Now, again, individual shareholders don't own a lot. There's a lot. I could talk for hours on it. But the point of it is the people that own the company, and usually they're big banks and big retirement funds, they want what? Someone to make sure that company doesn't do something that's going to cause their stock to go down, right? Or to have the company get in trouble, right? So they say those board of directors represent those owners to make sure the company does what it's supposed to do. So then they kind of manage the company leaders. It's a checks and balance is what it is.
How do the board of directors get their jobs? And do they get paid to be those people?
They do get paid to be, they can get compensated fairly well. You know, board of directors are chosen based on their background. Usually you'll have a person that's an expert on human resources, a person that's an expert retired CEO, a person that's a high-level lawyer, because they're going to help the company with what they call long-term strategic planning and making sure that it continues to do well. And, you know, the board, you know, the company selects the board and shareholders select the board. So it's really complicated. When you go in that class, you'll
We might need to have you back.
so that's a board of directors. They want to make sure the company does what it's supposed to. Now the people that are my bosses, I'm owned by companies, and so they have people on what's called a board, and they make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to make sure that the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad switches their cars, takes care of the customers that they have, make sure that we safely do it, make sure that we don't have to go out and say, I'm broke, I need money. I know that I overspent, but I need money. You know what overspending is, right? You ever do that?
Overspend on
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
You owe
say-
$10 and you only have 5?
What? What do you mean?
It's where you owe more than money
Oh,
than you
yeah,
have.
it's like debt, right?
It's like what? Debt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you keep your customers happy?
We keep our customers happy by making sure that we service them when we say we're going to service them. You know, if you're a customer and you make plastic and we don't take your plastic material in for you to make the plastic mold or whatever, are you going to be real happy with the railroad? Because if you don't serve, and this is for whatever industry, whether it's trucking, whether it's airplanes, anyone order anything off Amazon and never get it when they were